Did you know that in the United States, over 2 million elderly women face emotional abuse from their own families each year, often disguised as tough love during holidays? It started innocently enough for me, Elizabeth, a 60-year-old widow living in a quiet suburb of Chicago. After my husband passed away 5 years ago from a sudden heart attack, I threw myself into being the rock for my only son, Michael, and his family. I had raised Michael single-handedly after his father left us early, working 2 jobs to put him through college. Now, at 35, he had a good job in marketing, a beautiful wife named Sarah, and 2 adorable grandchildren, a boy of 7 and a girl of 4. I babysat them every weekend, cooked meals, and even helped with their mortgage payments when times were tight. Thanksgiving was our sacred tradition. I would spend days preparing the feast, roasting a 20-pound turkey with sage stuffing, baking pumpkin pies from scratch, and setting the table with my grandmother's china. Last year, everything was perfect. Laughter filled the air as we shared stories around the fire. But this year, I sensed a chill. Sarah had been distant lately, canceling our play dates with the kids and making snide comments about my old-fashioned ways. I brushed it off as stress from her job as a teacher. Little did I know, she was plotting to push me out. As I loaded my car with casseroles and gifts that crisp November morning, my heart swelled with anticipation. Michael called to confirm I was coming, his voice warm as always. Sarah's in the background. I heard her mutter something about too many people. I ignored it, focusing on the drive through the falling leaves. Arriving at their cozy 2-story home in Oak Park, I knocked with arms full. Michael opened the door, hugging me tightly. "Mom, you didn't have to bring all this," he said. But Sarah stood in the kitchen, arms crossed, her eyes cold. The tension was palpable, like a storm cloud over the dining room. We sat down to eat, the turkey golden and steaming. As I reached for the carving knife, Sarah cleared her throat. "This is our family now," she said softly but firmly. I felt a knot in my stomach, but the real blow was coming. The grandchildren chattered excitedly, unaware. That evening would change everything, but at that moment I still believed in forgiveness. Chapter 2. What if the person you trusted most whispered secrets behind your back, plotting to erase you from your own family's life? As I prepared for that fateful Thanksgiving, I poured my soul into every detail, unaware of the betrayal brewing. It was mid-November, and I spent hours at the local grocery store, selecting the freshest cranberries for sauce and organic potatoes for mashing. My kitchen in my modest bungalow smelled of cinnamon and nutmeg as I baked apple crisps the night before. I had saved for months to buy the kids new toys, a train set for little Tommy and a dollhouse for Emily. Michael had always appreciated my efforts. He called me his hero growing up. But Sarah, she had changed since they married 8 years ago. At first, she was sweet, thanking me for advice on parenting. Lately, though, her texts were curt. "No need to come over this week, we're busy." I wondered if it was postpartum from Emily's birth, but that was years ago. One evening, as I folded laundry, my phone buzzed. It was Michael. "Mom, Sarah's been stressed," he said. "Maybe tone down the traditions this year." I laughed it off. "Traditions are what hold us together," I replied. But later I overheard a snippet when I called unexpectedly. Sarah on speaker. "Tell her not to bother coming if she's going to hover." My heart skipped. Why the hostility? I had loaned them $10,000 last year for home repairs, never asking for repayment. I volunteered at Emily's preschool, baking cookies for events, yet Sarah saw me as an intruder. Pushing doubts aside, I focused on the menu. Green bean casserole with fried onions, sweet potato mash with marshmallows, and my famous gravy. I even polished the silverware inherited from my mother. The drive to their house took 45 minutes through traffic, my mind racing with excitement. Pulling up, I saw the decorations, pumpkins on the porch, autumn wreaths. This would be a day of gratitude, I thought. How wrong I was. As I unpacked the food, Sarah watched from afar. The air felt thick, conversations forced. Dinner approached, and I helped set the table, placing name cards as always. That's when Sarah leaned in to Michael. "We need to talk about boundaries," she whispered. I pretended not to hear, but the seed of doubt grew. Little did I know her words would explode like a hidden mine.
What if the person you trusted most whispered secrets behind your back, plotting to erase you from your own family's life? As I prepared for that fateful Thanksgiving, I poured my soul into every detail, unaware of the betrayal brewing. It was mid-November, and I spent hours at the local grocery store, selecting the freshest cranberries for sauce and organic potatoes for mashing. My kitchen in my modest bungalow smelled of cinnamon and nutmeg as I baked apple crisps the night before. I had saved for months to buy the kids new toys, a train set for little Tommy and a dollhouse for Emily. Michael had always appreciated my efforts. He called me my hero growing up. But Sarah? She had changed since they married 8 years ago. At first, she was sweet, thanking me for advice on parenting. Lately, though, her texts were curt. "No need to come over this week, we're busy." I wondered if it was postpartum from Emily's birth, but that was years ago. One evening, as I folded laundry, my phone buzzed. It was Michael. "Mom, Sarah's been stressed," he said. "Maybe tone down the traditions this year." I laughed it off. "Traditions are what hold us together," I replied. But later I overheard a snippet when I called unexpectedly. Sarah on speaker. "Tell her not to bother comin' if she's gonna hover." My heart skipped. Why the hostility? I had loaned them $10,000 last year for home repairs, never asking for repayment. I volunteered at Emily's preschool, baking cookies for events, yet Sarah saw me as an intruder. Pushing doubts aside, I focused on the menu. Green bean casserole with fried onions, sweet potato mash with marshmallows, and my famous gravy. I even polished the silverware inherited from my mother. The drive to their house took 45 minutes through traffic, my mind racing with excitement. Pulling up, I saw the decorations, pumpkins on the porch, autumn wreaths. This would be a day of gratitude, I thought. How wrong I was. As I unpacked the food, Sarah watched from afar. The air felt thick, conversations forced. Dinner approached, and I helped set the table, placing name cards as always. That's when Sarah leaned in to Michael. "We need to talk about boundaries," she whispered. I pretended not to hear, but the seed of doubt grew. Little did I know, her words would soon explode like a hidden mine. "You don't deserve to sit with us," she spat, turning a holiday of thanks into a battlefield of exclusion. Words that echoed in my mind like a gunshot. The moment arrived as we gathered around the oak dining table, candles flickering under the chandelier. The aroma of roasted turkey filled the room, mixed with the scent of fresh rolls. Michael carved the bird, smiling awkwardly.
"Kids, say grace," he prompted. Tommy mumbled thanks for food and family. I beamed, passing plates. Then Sarah fixed her gaze on me. "This seat is for close family only," she said calmly. My fork froze mid-air. "What do you mean?" I asked, voice trembling. She leaned forward. "You've overstayed your welcome in our lives, Elizabeth. We appreciate the help, but it's time you backed off." The room went silent. Emily whimpered, sensing the tension. Michael stared at his plate. "Sarah, that's not fair," he muttered weakly, but she continued. "You've meddled too much, telling me how to raise the kids, showing up unannounced. Today you can eat in the kitchen." Tears stung my eyes. I had driven here with love, arms laden with gifts and food worth hundreds of dollars. The grandchildren looked confused. "Grandma, stay," Tommy pleaded, but Sarah shook her head. "This is our home, our rules." I stood slowly, legs shaking, and moved to the kitchen counter, eating alone while laughter resumed without me. The pie I baked sat untouched on their table. Hours later, as they watched football, I slipped out quietly, driving home through tears. The highway blurred, my mind replaying her words. How had it come to this? I had sacrificed my retirement savings for their wedding, babysat through illnesses, even cleaned their house after parties. Yet in one evening I was demoted to outsider. Rage simmered beneath the hurt. That night, alone in my bed, I vowed change. No more doormat. Sarah had drawn the line. Now I'd redraw the map. In America, statistics show that emotional elder abuse affects 1 in 10 seniors, often from those they love most, leaving scars deeper than any physical wound. After that humiliating Thanksgiving, I drove home in a fog, tears streaming as streetlights blurred past. Back in my empty house, I collapsed on the couch, replaying the scene. Sarah's cold eyes, Michael's silence. It felt like a death. For days I didn't answer calls. Michael texted, "Mom, Sarah didn't mean it that way." But she did. I thought back to the beginning. When Michael met Sarah in college, I welcomed her with open arms, hosting engagement parties and paying for half the honeymoon. After Tommy's birth, I stayed weeks, cooking and cleaning while she recovered. Emily came next, and I did the same. Financially, I gifted them $20,000 over the years for cars, vacations, even Sarah's student loans. In return, dismissal. I stared at old photos, us at the zoo, baking cookies. Where did the warmth go? Sarah's jealousy, perhaps, resenting my bond with the kids, or control issues. Whatever, it ended now. I called my best friend, Linda, a retired nurse. She listened, then said, "Elizabeth, you've given enough. Protect yourself." Her words ignited a spark. I dusted off my address book and scheduled a meeting with my lawyer, Mr. Thompson, whom I'd known since my husband's estate. No more blind generosity. As snow fell outside, I journaled my pain, turning it to resolve. The family heirlooms, the savings account in Michael's name, I'd reclaim it all. Quietly, methodically. They thought me weak, but widows like me learn resilience. By week's end, I felt empowered. The plan formed. Cut financial ties, rewrite the will, and vanish from their daily lives. Sarah wanted me out? Fine, but she'd learn the cost of ingratitude.
Imagine discovering a hidden text chain where your daughter-in-law mocks your every gesture, fueling a hatred born from her own insecurities, twists that turn family bonds into nooses. As winter deepened with snow blanketing my Chicago suburb like a shroud, I severed the ties completely. No more weekend babysitting. Instead, I sipped hot cocoa alone by my fireplace, the crackling logs echoing my growing resolve. Michael called repeatedly, his voice laced with confusion. "Mom, the kids miss you. Why the silence?" he pleaded. I replied coolly, "Because actions have consequences, and I've had enough of being disposable." Sarah's envy had always simmered. I recalled how she'd glare when Tommy hugged me tighter than her, or when Emily preferred my bedtime stories about fairy tales with unexpected villains. Little did I know, while sorting old mail, I'd stumble upon a forwarded email from Sarah to her sister. "That old bat thinks she's irreplaceable. Watch me prove her wrong." Hatred dripped from every word, revealing her resentment over my financial stability, earned from years of scrimping, while she splurged on designer bags. I ignored her desperate texts. "We need help with daycare costs now." Instead, I joined a book club discussing thrillers where protagonists exacted poetic justice, mirroring my life. One evening, as rain pelted my windows like accusing fingers, Michael showed up unannounced, banging on the door. "Mom, Sarah's sorry. She didn't mean to hurt you," he lied, eyes darting. But I saw the truth. He enabled her, fearing her wrath more than my pain. I handed him a box of old toys. "Take these back. I'm done playing grandma on your terms." As he left, defeated, a twist unfolded. I learned from a mutual friend that Sarah had been bad-mouthing me at work parties, claiming I was manipulative. The hatred fueled my fire. No more olive branches. I changed my locks that night, the metallic click a symbol of my newfound fortress. Envy twisted her features in my mind's eye, but now it was my turn to watch them unravel from afar. Did you know that in the United States, family disputes over inheritance lead to over 500,000 lawsuits annually, often sparked by buried resentments that erupt like hidden volcanoes? With that statistic burning in my thoughts, I accelerated my financial overhaul, adding layers of unexpected safeguards. Spring arrived, melting the snow to reveal muddy paths in my garden, where I knelt planting tulips, red ones symbolizing my simmering anger. I listed my house for sale quietly, through a discreet realtor named Carla who whispered about market highs. The home, filled with memories like the scuffed kitchen table where Michael did homework, fetched offers quickly. I accepted one for $350,000, far more than expected due to a neighborhood boom. Michael heard through the grapevine and panicked, calling, "Mom, you're selling our family home. Why?" I answered, "It's my home, and I've decided to invest in my future, not yours." The twist came when I discovered via old bank statements that Sarah had secretly used my loaned money for a luxury spa weekend, not home repairs as claimed, envy driving her to live beyond means, hating my frugality. I redirected the sale proceeds into a high-yield account and bonds, naming a charity as partial beneficiary in my updated will. Hatred welled as I imagined her face upon learning this, she who'd sneered at my thrift store finds while flaunting her manicures. Little mementos haunted me, a forgotten crayon drawing from Emily in my drawer, stirring brief guilt, but I pushed on.
I bought a small condo downtown with views of bustling streets where young couples argued over coffee, reminders of life's petty battles. When Michael visited the empty house during packing, he found boxes labeled "Donate." "This is because of Sarah, isn't it?" he accused, voice breaking. "Partly," I admitted, "but mostly because of your silence." Envy had poisoned their marriage, too. I overheard him muttering about her spending habits. The sale closed on a rainy Tuesday, the escrow check in hand like a weapon. Now, without my cushion, their bills mounted, car payments, school fees, and I savored the quiet victory from my new balcony, sipping tea as sirens wailed in the distance.
What if the perfect family facade crumbled overnight, revealing cracks of debt and deceit that no one saw coming? As summer heat waves scorched Chicago, turning sidewalks into griddles, their crisis escalated in ways I hadn't anticipated. I monitored from afar through sporadic updates from Linda, who played neutral spy. Sarah lost her teaching job unexpectedly. Budget cuts, she claimed, but whispers suggested complaints about her attitude, born from that same hatred she harbored toward authority figures like me. Envy festered. She envied my independence, now resenting Michael's late nights at work to cover gaps. Their mortgage payments lagged, leading to late fees that piled like autumn leaves. One twist, I discovered Sarah had a gambling app on her phone from a screenshot accidentally shared in a family group chat I'd muted. Small bets turning into thousands lost, her hatred for my stability pushing her to risky escapes. Little details amplified the chaos. Tommy's birthday party canceled due to costs. Emily crying over missed dance classes I once funded. Michael called begging. "Mom, we're drowning. Can you loan us $5,000? "No," I said firmly. "You've burned that bridge." Hatred flashed in Sarah's voice when she grabbed the phone. "This is your fault, you vindictive witch." I hung up, heart pounding but empowered. Envy drove her to post cryptic social media rants about toxic in-laws, which backfired when friends sided with me after hearing my side. Their car got repossessed one humid afternoon. I imagined the tow truck's beep echoing their despair. Groceries became generic brands, vacations scrapped, Melachie like skipping coffee runs, arguing over thermostat settings. A shocking turn, Michael confessed in a tearful voicemail that Sarah had an affair years ago, her envy of my past happy marriage fueling it. Hatred blinded him to signs until now. I didn't respond, letting the silence speak. As fireworks lit the July sky, I attended a solo concert, the bass thumping like my triumphant pulse. Their world imploded, piece by petty piece, and I watched, whispering to myself, "This is justice." "You're the reason our life is ruined," she screamed during our final showdown, her words laced with venom that exposed years of buried loathing. Fall leaves crunched underfoot as I agreed to meet them at a neutral park cafe, the air crisp with impending frost. Michael looked haggard, bags under his eyes from sleepless nights. Sarah, once polished, now disheveled, her nails chipped, a detail that satisfied my quiet rage. We sat at a wooden table, steam rising from coffees I didn't offer to buy. "Mom, please, let's fix this," Michael started. Sarah interrupted. "Admit it, you did this out of spite." I leaned in, voice steady. "Spite? No, this is consequence. You humiliated me on Thanksgiving, treating me like trash after all I've given." Envy twisted her face. She hated how the kids still asked for Grandma's hugs, how my stories lingered in their minds. A twist unfolded. She confessed, tears streaming, that her own mother abandoned her young, fueling her hatred for strong maternal figures like me. But it was too late. I've sold the house, changed the will. Everything goes to charity unless you prove change, I revealed. Michael gasped. But that's our inheritance. Not anymore, I countered. Hatred boiled as Sarah lunged verbally. I always knew you were jealous of our happiness. Jealous? I laughed coldly. You envied my bond with them, my security. Little mementos flashed, the Thanksgiving pie she wasted, the gifts returned unopened. Another shock, Michael admitted he'd known about her affair but stayed for the kids, his own resentment toward her growing. We need your help, he begged. No, I said, standing. You've taught me self-worth. As I walked away, leaves swirling like confetti of closure, Sarah yelled curses, but I didn't look back. The cafe's bell jingled behind me, a final punctuation to their pleas. In the end, true freedom often rises from the ashes of betrayal, with statistics showing that over 70% of those who cut toxic family ties report higher life satisfaction, a fact that now defines my rebirth. Winter returned, but this time I embraced it from a cruise ship deck, waves lapping as I sailed to the Caribbean, funded by my savvy investments. No more Chicago blizzards, instead sunsets painted the sky in hues of victory. Unexpected twists lingered. Michael filed for divorce, citing irreconcilable differences, Sarah's hatred finally fracturing their union. He reached out tentatively, apologizing profusely, and I allowed supervised visits with the grandkids, Tommy's gap-toothed grin, Emily's braids bouncing as we baked cookies in my condo kitchen. Hatred had consumed Sarah. Last I heard, she moved back with her sister, scraping by on odd jobs, resenting every success story she saw online. My life bloomed with Melichi, morning walks in new parks where pigeons cooed approval, volunteering at shelters, sharing tales of resilience, even dating a kind widower named Robert, whose laughter healed old wounds. Hatred faded to pity, but the lesson endured. Never underestimate quiet strength. As I watched dolphins leap beside the ship, I whispered to the wind, "I've changed everything, and it's beautiful." Vengeance whispered back, patient and complete.